in this section I will cover almost all areas. Like maybe you learned in functional analysis in the MSc courses. I will try to cover the MSc courses and the problem also. Okay, so up to closed graph theory. Okay, so this is, and we try to solve some good problems. Okay, I will share my PDF. Okay, so in the previous class we also saw what is a norm, and so I will mention here today also. So you can take a vector space. What is a norm on X is a map. So this is basically, it is a measure the distance between 0 and X, right? So generally you have a Rn. So it is the basically not Rn, you take a R2. So basically R2 is the usual distance, right? In the the real life also. Okay. Before that, I have to mention things. See, functional analysis has good connection with the various fields and various fields of mathematics and uh, other area of also like physics and uh, like some other engineering departments, kind of many areas. It has a good connections. So if you learn functional analysis very well, so you can survive. You can survive. Okay. Okay. So what is a norm on X? So X is a map. Basically, it's a map from vector space X to R, which satisfies the following properties. So this means the first condition is the positive definite condition. For norm X is always non-negative and norm X equal to 0 if and only if X equal to 0. So this condition is the positive definite condition. So this condition is, it's a positive definite. Okay, this condition is positive. The second thing is for lambda belongs to C. So yeah, here we will consider the only vector space over C. So whatever the results we prove, that is also true for vector space over R also. If some results are not true when you consider vector space over R, so yeah, when I mention at that time. Okay, so for lambda belongs to C, X belongs to X. So what is the norm of lambda X? It is nothing but modulus of lambda times norm X, right? So this is a homogeneity, positive homogeneity. Something. Okay. So for X comma Y belongs to, this is called a triangle inequality. No triangle. This is called a triangle inequality. Okay. So let's see some examples of non-linear space. Let X equal to C power n. So you can consider the collection of all n-tuple scalars. So this is a vector space with respect to the usual coordinate as addition and scalar multiplication. Okay. So you can define various norm on X. I mean C power n. So for each P greater than or equal to 1, you can define a map given by the following equation. This is norm of, this norm is called P norm. So this is a summation I equal to 1 modulus of alpha I P. It's the square root of 1 by 2, right? So this is a, you can verify this is actually, it's a norm. You can easily verify. Okay, so this is a norm. But here the good case, when you P equal to 2, this norm actually comes some more examples. Yeah. Is there any problem? Hello?
No issue. No issue.
Okay. For if you for 1 less than or equal to P less than infinity, you can collect all, what is the LP? LP basically denote the set of all sequence of complex number such that the summation n equal to 1 to infinity modulus of xn power p is less than infinite, right? So basically there is a called another notion capital LP. So capital LP, you need the measure space, right? So like you need a sigma finite measure space, and you can define the p integrable function. Then you can define the same thing. So here our measure space is set of all positive integers, and the measure is the counting measure. So if you don't know, you don't need to worry about. Just keep following these other things, right? You don't need to worry about. If you don't know capital LP, just solve it. So no need to worry about it. Correct? for the time being. Okay. So you can also verify that this is a LP is a vector space with respect to the usual addition and scalar multiplication. You can see some standard textbooks. How will you show that there is a vector space? And this is also a norm because of the Minkowski inequality. This is a norm. Okay. Yeah. So you can show that this is a norm. Okay. Therefore, LP with respect to the P norm is a norm-linear space. Okay. Okay. So we see it's a non-linear vector space. So one example which is not a non-linear space. Okay. For 0 less than p less than 1, let NP denote the set of all sequence of complex number such that the summation is the less than finite. So LP, you can easily see that LP is a vector space over C. But the map, whatever we define the same formula here, but this map is not a norm on LP. Why this is not a norm on LP? Because this norm does not satisfy the triangle inequality. Because, so what is the norm of E1 plus E2? So this norm is 2 power 1 by P, right? You can easily see this norm is 2 power 1 by P. Okay, you can easily see from the definition of norm. It's not a norm. You can easily see in the definition of this, right? So this is a 1 by P. So what is the norm of not? What is this quantity? So this quantity is 1, right? So this quantity is also 1 because the summation it is only occur 1 in the 1 places. I mean E2 is second place. This is a norm. It is not. Yeah, this is a 1. But the triangle inequality says that 2 power 1 by P is less than or equal to 2, right? But note that 2 power 1 by P greater than 2 because P is less than 1, then 1 by P is greater than 1. Okay. So this is the contradict the fact of this one, right? So this is the contradiction. Therefore, it does not satisfy the triangle inequality. This map. Therefore, definitely this is not a norm. Okay. So the second is the inner product space. Okay. Yeah. It's the same KK vector space, and inner product on V is a map from x cross to x to C, which satisfies the following properties. It's for alpha comma beta belongs to C, x comma z, y comma z belongs to x. The inner product of alpha x plus beta y comma z is equal to alpha times inner product of x comma z plus beta times inner product of y comma z. Okay. So this is the linear in the first variable. Okay. For x belongs to x, the inner product of x comma x is always greater than or equal to 0. If the inner product of x comma x equal to 0, implies x equal to 0. So this means this is also a positive definite condition for the inner products. Positive definite condition. Okay, this is a positive condition. For x comma y belongs to x, the inner product of x comma y is equal to the complex conjugate of inner product of y comma x. So these are the conditions. Any map which satisfies these three conditions is called an inner product. Okay. So next we will make a one good remark. So let x be an inner product space. Then for x comma y belongs to x, then I need to forget to mention. Okay, fine. So any map which satisfies the first condition and the third condition, which is called semi-inner product. Okay. Let x be an inner product space for x comma y belongs to x. So modulus of x square inner product of x comma y is always less than or equal to inner product of x comma x and it times inner product of y comma y. Right. So in the above inequality, the equality holds only if and only if x and y are linearly dependent. Okay. So this inequality is called Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. So this inequality is very important. One can prove the inner product is continuous, right? So one can talk about the inner product is continuous. So you need a topological space, right? So far we don't have any topology, right? So we will introduce a topology first. Okay. So you want a topology, you can define a distance function, right? Okay. So next we will define a distance function. Yeah. Before that, we will define a norm on that. Okay. Let x be an inner product space for x belongs to x. Put the quantity, the square root of inner product of x comma x. Note that the map x belongs to x send it to the this quantity. Now I mean it's a norm x belongs to x. This is a basically it's a norm. That's what I'm saying here is norm. So you have an inner product space, then you will get a you will make it as a that vector space is a norm linear space, right? So I will return here every inner product space is a norm linear space. In the previous class I said every norm linear space is also a metric space, right? The metric you can define by distance between the two vectors x and y is nothing but norm of x minus 1, right? So this is basically it is a metric. Then one can talk about the inner product map is whether inner product map is whether continuous or not, because the inner product is continuous because of the Cauchy's quotient inequality. Okay, from that you can easily deduce that the inner product is continuous. Okay, okay, but the converse need not be true. Every non-linear space need not be inner product space. Okay, why? Because that norm does not comes from the inner product. So I will give some examples. So I will give some examples of non-linear space that in that space the norm does not comes from the inner product. Okay, so this is one important parallelogram law properties. So any inner product space satisfies the parallelogram law. So what is the parallelogram law? You take any two vectors. This equation is satisfied. That norm satisfies this equation is called a parallelogram law. So norm of x plus y the whole square is plus norm of x minus y the whole square is equal to 2 times norm x square plus norm y square. Okay, so this is a parallelogram. This is a very important one because any inner product space, it is automatically a norm linear space. That norm satisfies the parallelogram law. Okay, so this is very important because we need to use this. So consider the vector space the set of all continuous function. Okay, consider the set of all continuous complex valued function. Okay, equipped with the L1 norm. This is the L1 norm, which I mentioned here. So this is the L1 norm because this is the L1 norm. Okay, this norm is called L1 norm. So prove that there is no inner product on C of close to 0, 1 agreed with this norm. That means you cannot define an inner product on C of close to 0, 1. That inner product induces a norm. That norm actually does not agree with your L1 norm, right? So for that, what is the proof of this? Okay, so suppose assume that there is an inner product. Okay, suppose there is an inner product C of close to 0, 1. So that inner product induces the norm. That norm is a L1 norm. Okay, so then by the parallelogram law that norm by the parallelogram law any inner product satisfies any inner product on a vector space. It is given a norm linear space. That norm satisfies the parallelogram law. Okay, so you can verify this norm satisfies the parallelogram law or not. Okay, because if it is an inner product, then definitely it satisfies the norm satisfies the parallelogram. Okay, f of x equal to 1 for x belongs to 0. This is you take a constant function and you take the linear map g of x into 2 of x for all x. So what is the norm of L1 norm under L1 norm? What is the norm of f? This is 1 by 2. What is the norm of g1? This is nothing but it's a 1. Okay, so what is the norm of f plus g? Yeah, you can easily evaluate. This norm is 2. And what is the norm of f minus g? You can compute. I'm splitting into two integral 0 to 1, 1 minus 2x. In this value, this function is the positive. Therefore, you can remove the modulus. Okay, integral 1 by 2, 2x minus 1. So in this, the function is positive. You can remove the modulus. So compute the value. The value is the 1 by 2, right? Then if you are able to compute, it does not equal to this. Okay, therefore, what you can conclude that you cannot put an inner product on C of close to 0, 1 that agreed with this your L1 norm, right? So basically, you never put an inner product on this space. Under the norm is L1 norm, right? You can make it as if you put a modulus integral 0 to 1 modulus of f of t square dt. That maybe it comes from the inner product, right? This L1 norm does not come from the inner product. Okay, so there is another example for that. Consider the linear space equipped with the norm. This norm is called the sub norm. Okay, so this subnorm is also does not comes from the inner product. So the same thing you need to prove, you need to verify this norm satisfies the, this norm does not satisfy the parallelogram law, right? For that you need to take the identity function and consider the 1 minus 2t. You can compute the norm, just it is take a supremum. So what is the norm f, and norm g is are equal to 1, but norm f plus g is equal to 1, but norm f minus g equal to 2. So totally this quantity is so if you find the value norm f plus g the whole square plus norm f minus g the whole square, that is a 5. In the right hand side, that is the quantity is 4. So these quantities are not equal. Therefore, norm infinity does not satisfy the parallelogram. Okay. So the sup norm also does not comes from the inner product. Okay. Okay. Yeah. The third thing is some definitions for we needed so to prove the next problem. So I will introduce few definitions here. Let Z be a Hausdorff topological space. We say that Z is locally compact. That means for each x belongs to x, there exists an open set U containing x such that U bar is compact. Okay. I mean U bar means the closure of U is compact in Z. Okay. Okay. So there is a fact from the which is comes from the functional analysis. You maybe learn this. This is called Rees lemma. A norm linear space is a finite dimensional if and only if the closed unit ball of X is compact. Okay. So this is a characterization, right? A norm linear space could be either finite dimensional or infinite dimensional, but it is characterized from this closed unit ball, right? Suppose this closed unit ball is compact, then it is automatically the space is finite dimensional. It is like it is maybe a C power. It is coincides with C power n. And there is a Hein-Borel theorem there. The closed unit ball is compact. Yeah. Yeah. This is the crucial lemma. We will use this next problem to encounter this problem. Okay. Any finite dimensional norm linear space cannot be locally compact with respect to the norm topology. Any finite dimensional norm, any infinite dimensional norm linear space cannot be locally compact with respect to the norm topology, right? So do you have any idea to solve this problem? I am written this is a straightforward from the definition of locally compact and Rees lemma. Do you have any idea? Someone have idea? Why this is not a locally compact?
We can use the E1, E2, E3 as they because they have norm equal to 1 and then they should belongs to B1. And they must, for the compactness it has a subsequence convergent subsequence sequential
No,
criteria.
here it is not a E1. Here it is not a E1, E2, right? Here it is a general norm linear space.
Okay.
Here it is a general norm linear space. You have to use the Rees lemma. You have to use the Rees lemma. How to use the Rees lemma? Okay. So suppose it is a locally yeah. Someone said come. Yeah. Yes. Yes, please. Yeah.
So if we take any point in the space, so
yes,
there
okay.
will be an open set which contains such that U bar is compact. Now U bar is compact, therefore by Rees it should be finite dimensional.
Is open and U bar is compact. Okay.
U bar is
from
compact.
That, how will you conclude that? Yeah.
So U
from
bar
that, how will you conclude? Why? U bar is an open set, but U bar is a compact. Fine. But finite dimensional, you need to show that the closed unit ball is compact, right?
Yeah, but
you have
U
to
bar
show
can
the closed
be covered by this fine union of.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, union
any
of.
open cover will be have a finite subcover.
Yes.
So U bar will be finite dimensional because it can be written as a finite union of open this finite union of finite dimensional spaces.
Okay. Why? From that, how will you conclude it's a finite dimension? See, this is very simple. See, what is the locally compact definition? So I will recall the definition. For each x belongs to x, there is an open set containing x such that U bar is compact, right? That means, suppose x is locally compact. So what you will get? Given any point, you can find an open set and the closure of the open set is compact, right? I will take x equal to 0. Okay, I will take x equal to 0. It is very simple for me. I take x equal to 0. Okay. So for that, you can find an open set whose closure is compact, right? So this is an open set. You can find a some open ball, right, around R. It's contained in U, right? There exists a R greater than, so you can find a some open ball. You can find open because U is an open. You can find an open ball such that this is good, right? So what is the closure? When you take the closure, B of 0, 1 contained in U bar, right? So what is the closure of the open unit ball? This is nothing but set of all x such that norm x less than or equal to R, right? This is this is U bar. So then this closed unit ball, no, not the closed unit ball. This is the closed ball whose radius R, right? Okay. So this is the closed unit ball has the radius R. So this can be written as R times set of all x such that norm x is less than or equal to 1. You can scale by R, right? You can scale by R. Then this set is compact implies the closed unit ball is compact. Therefore, it is a finite dimension, right? You have to use the reason. So I am using the property here. V of 0, R is written as V of 0, 1. So I am using the property here. I am using this property. So if B of 0, 1 R is compact, implies because if you multiply any scalar by that is a homeomorphism, right, in the vector space. So you will get this is also compact. This proof is fine. Is there any doubt? If you have doubt, you can ask me. This is very simple. It is the definition and application of the Ries Lemma.
You concluded that B0, we have concluded B0R is a compact, and by the homeomorphism that multiplied with the R, that's why it's going to conclude that B01 is also compact, right?
Yes.
Use the topological property. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yes. You are right. Okay. So next definition is a Banach space. A non-linear space exists to be Banach space. So X is a complete metric space with respect to the metric induced by the norm on X, right? So complete means every Cauchy sequence converges in that space one. Okay. So this is a fact. This is a well-known fact. It will be very useful when you prove LP is a Banach space, capital L, small little LP is a Banach space, capital LP is a Banach space. You can use this this fact, right? This is a very useful fact. A non-linear space X is Banach. The series converges in X, where AN is any sequence which satisfying this condition, right? Satisfying this condition. So this condition is basically it's absolutely converges. So in other words, a non-linear space is Banach space if and only if every absolutely summable series is summable. Okay, that's fine. So we will see some examples for the Banach space. As I introduced earlier, what is LP? So LP is a non-linear space. So with respect to the norm, LP is a Banach space. Okay, and Cn Rn is a Banach space with respect to the Euclidean norm on R. The Banach, the completeness comes from the completeness of R or C. Okay, yeah, that's it. So the next one is L infinity. I am introducing here only. Let L infinity into the set of all bounded sequence of complex numbers. Then the norm is defined by the following equation. You can, because it's a bounded sequence, one can naturally demand. You can define this is the supremum because it's a finite, it's a bounded sequence. You can naturally define the supremum quantity. So this is the infinity norm. Sup norm. Okay. With respect to this, L infinity is a Banach space with respect to the norm, right? You can see the some these exercises are some standard books. These examples are, you can see the proof also, right? Fine. The second one is, let C naught be the space of all sequence which converging to the 0. You can consider set of all sequence, the sequence converges to 0 only, right? So note that you note that any convergent sequence is bounded, right? So from that, C infinity is sitting inside L infinity, and you can easily show that C naught is a closed set in L infinity. Okay, this is very easy. Closed set you can see because you take a sequence in C naught which converges to some element. You can easily show that X is also sequence which converges to 0. Right? That is clear. That is easily. You can also see some standard books. Yeah, I will use this. C naught is a Banach space with respect to the sub norm. Okay. Okay, we will try to encounter this law. Let C naught be the set of all sequence in C such that xn equal to 0 for all n greater than or equal to n naught. That means you can collect all sequence of complex number which are eventually 0, right? You can, eventually 0 means xn equal to 0 for all n greater than or equal to 0. Or in other words, xn equal to 0 for all but finite number of values. Okay. So you can easily see that C0 is completely sitting inside C0. C0 is completely sitting inside C0. Okay, then you can naturally restrict it to a norm. There is a subnorm in L infinity. You can restrict it to its norm in C0 and C0. Okay. Note that C0 is not a Banach space. First, with respect to the subnorm, what is the closure of C0 in L infinity? The answer is C0. Okay, it is easy. Why it is not a Banach space? Okay, you will consider the sequence xk. So I will define a xk is 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by k. After that you put 0. Okay, and this is for all k greater than or equal to 1. Note that xk belongs to C0. Okay, it's clear, no? So where it converges, xk, you need to climb. Xk converges to x, where x is the 1 by n sequence. Okay, it's a 1 by k. It could be nice. Yeah, same indices, permutation. Okay, you can prove this is a converges to here. This is very easy. Why it is converges to here? You need to find the subnorm, right? What is xk minus x? So this is nothing but subrimum of k, n equal to what is that? Yeah, k plus 1, greater than or equal to k plus 1. It is a 1 by n, right? But what is the supreme? N greater than or equal to k plus 1. You know, right? 1 by n converges to 0, right? Therefore, this supremum tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Therefore, xk tends to x, right? But note that x does not belongs to C0. Sorry, yeah, C0, right? Therefore, C0 is not a closed set. Closed set in C0. You know, right? C0 is a Banach space. Yeah. Any closed subset of a complete metric space is complete. Sorry, any closed subset of a subset of a complete metric space is complete if and only if it is closed, right? So then C0 is not a closed set, therefore it is not a Banach space. It's not a Banach space. Okay. It's not a Banach space. Okay. So what is the closure then? See, C0 is sitting inside there. So 0, its closure is again C0, right? It's sitting inside. But one needs to argue. One needs to argue C0 is sitting C0 closure. This is very easy. So climb C0 is sitting inside C0 closure, right? It is very easy. You take a x belongs to x. Okay, it's take a C0, then consider the sequence xk. You can take the first k terms, others are 0. For all k greater than or equal to, for each positive integer, you can define. For k belongs to n, you can define xk, right? Again, what is the norm of this? Xk minus x. This is nothing but the same trick, whatever we have done in the previous one. N equal to n greater than or equal to k plus 1. This is a modulus of xn, right? You know, where is xn? This sequence xn converges to 0, right? Because we taking x is in C0. Therefore, this sequence xn tends to 0, right? As n tends to infinity, right? Therefore, if you take a k tends to infinity, then this will be, this will be going to 0. If you take k tends to infinity, taking limit k tends to xk minus x, it is 0. Okay. Therefore, what do you have for? You can find a sequence xk in C0. You can find a sequence in xk in C0 such that xk converges to x. Therefore, x belongs to C0 close. Okay. Hence the proof completes, right? Yes. Okay. Is there any doubt in this argument? If you have doubt, you can ask me. Okay. This is the things. If you have doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So next things, for 1 less than or equal to p less than q less than infinity, then what is this inequality is hold. LP is completely sitting inside LQ. I think you may be seen in some textbooks, but the second one is, so now the second problem is it's slightly different, because LP is sitting inside LQ, then you can restrict the Q norm on LP. Okay. So therefore, you can make it as a LP is a norm linear space with 2 different norms. The first norm is norm P, the second norm is norm Q, right? Therefore, you can consider that this inclusion map is continuous or not, right? With respect to the norm, the first one is the norm P norm, the second one is the Q norm. The inclusion map is continuous or not, okay? The third one is, if you take any sequence in the union, then norm x and P tends to norm x equal to P as P tends to infinity, right? This problem we can okay. For that, what do you have to show that? You take a one element from LP, you need to show that that element is also in LQ. Okay, you can take any element in LP, claim x belongs to LQ, right? Since this is the finite quantity, because x is in LP, so this is the finite quantity. So this implies norm xn, modulus of xn is less than 1. Why? Why this? Why? Do you know? Do you have any argument for this?
Sir, since xn power p is convergent, so xn power p converges to 0 sequence.
Yes. Yeah.
So the sequence
From that,
converges to.
yeah, from that you can conclude that modulus of xn converges to 0. Yeah, from that you can easily see that yes, this is less than in for all greater than or equal to n. Okay. Yeah. Since p less than q, then this is a norm xn. I mean modulus of xn power p is less than modulus of xn power p whenever this condition is full. I mean n greater than or equal to n naught. Only provided only this inequality is full, right? Because of modulus of xn is less than 1 and q is bigger than p. Okay. By the comparison test, you can easily see that x belongs to LQ. Okay. By the comparison test. This is by comparison test. Serious comparison test. Okay. Okay. So the second exercise we need to, by the second exercise, as I said, we are mentioned, right? So LP has 2 different norms now. When you consider, when you assume Q is bigger than Q, so you can put 2 norms on LP. One norm is P norm, the another norm is Q norm, because LP is sitting inside LQ. Okay. So one can ask this map is continuous or not. Okay. So this map is continuous. For it is enough to show that the Q norm is less than or equal to P norm, right? Whenever x belongs to LP. For that, it is simple. You can take any element in LP and alpha is equal to q divided by p. It is like therefore since p less than q, therefore q by p greater than 1. Okay, define an equal to modulus of xn. Okay, so we need to prove this inequality. So we need to prove this inequality. So if you replace xn by an in this norm inequality, it is equivalent to show that summation n equal to 1 to infinity alpha an power alpha is less than or equal to summation 1 equal to 1 to infinity an it's a whole power alpha. Okay, because it is easy, no? So if you put alpha equal to 1 by q, then this is a norm xn power q. Here it will come q. Yeah, yes. Yeah, for that we need to prove this inequality. This inequality is very simple. You take summation n equal to 1 to infinity. Because alpha is greater than 1, therefore you can return like this, right? Alpha minus 1 divided into an minus 1, right? So this is a convergent sequence. Therefore this is a bounded. Therefore you can replace by the supremum here, right? And this supremum is less than or equal to this one, summation n equal to 1 to infinity an power alpha n minus 1. Why this inequality is true? Because supremum of, if you suppose you have a sequence an greater than or equal to 0, okay, supremum of an power p is same as supremum of an whole power p. Okay, if you use this equality, provided an greater than or equal to 0, here our an are greater than or equal to 0, because our an is a modulus of x and p. Right, using this inequality and the supremum quantity always less than or equal to the summation quantity, right? So yes, it is less than or equal to the whole power. Okay, because using this you can get this. Okay, then substitute the value of an in the above inequality. You can easily see that norm q is less than or equal to norm p. Okay, hence our claim is whole. Okay, so therefore this map is continuous because xn converges to from this inequality you can easily see that xn converges to x in the p norm, then it is automatically xn converges to x in the q norm because of this inequality. Okay, yeah, the second one is you need to prove the third one, you need to prove when you take when you allowing limit p tends to infinity, the p norm is going to norm infinity, it's sub norm. Okay, that is very easy, you can easily see to prove. For that you have to fix p naught. So you take x belongs to p naught, you take p greater than or equal to p naught, then find the norm p naught, you can estimate the norm, right? It's a norm xn power p. This is the formula. So you can return the same trick because p naught is less than p, still less than b. Therefore you can return as this norm xn point t times this is modulus of xn p naught modulus of xn p minus p naught, right? Then again this is a bounded sequence, right? So you can replace the supremum here and take it and pull out the supremum. Then you will get 1 by p, square root of 1 by p, right? It's a 1 by p, not a square root. Then what you will get? So this is a p naught, right? This is a p naught. Here is the p naught. Yeah, here is the p naught. Then, so what is the value? This is the norm x infinity p minus p naught divided by p. So here, this quantity is equal to this quantity because what is the norm? What is the p naught norm? P naught norm is the you need a square root. For that, if you take a peak power, that is the norm x p naught by p, right? So you will get this. Now you need to take p tends to infinity. If you take p tends to infinity, so this quantity converges to 1, right? This quantity converges to 1. Yes, this quantity converges to 1, but this quantity it converges to norm x infinity. Okay, therefore, what we have to prove, what we have shown so far, I am writing here, it's norm x p as p tends to infinity, this is less than or equal to norm infinity. But we know already the subnorm is always less than or equal to the p norm. Okay, from that you can easily conclude that uh, this limit is approaches, because yeah, and also we in the second exercise what we have proved, when q is greater than p, this quantity is a decreasing, right? This quantity is a decreasing. From that you can easily conclude that the norm x, the p norm tends to norm infinity as p tends to infinity. Okay. Okay, fine. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Suddenly stop. If you understand, if you not understand, you can ask. Right? Okay. We can prove. We can go to this. Maybe I will skip this, the first one, because this is, you might know what is the LP is separable. Anybody know the reason for this? Why LP is separable? Why little LP is separable? If you know, please give your argument. If you don't know, it's fine. You can refer some. Okay.
They're here that I think we can use that E1, E2, ENs as a basis, so they are countable
Okay.
and dense set, so that's why it is separable.
Okay, but it is a countable. Why it is dense? It is not a dense, no?
Yeah, it is not. Yes, sir, because the will be root 2. Yeah, that's a contradiction.
Yeah. But you have to show that LP is separable. No. For that, you have to take all linear combination of LP with your scalar. You can take all linear combination of E1 and E2 with the scalar is comes from the I mean
Complex
it's a rational.
numbers.
It is a complex number, but both real and imaginary parts are rational numbers, right?
Okay.
So this set is actually, it is a countable, and it is also dense. Okay, because Q is dense, therefore Q is dense in Q cross Q is dense in C, therefore it is easily follows LP is separable, right? Okay, fine. But L infinity is not separable. I will give you argument here. Okay, for that we will collect L infinity is not separable. For that we collect, let F be the set of all sequence of zeros and one. Okay, you know this set is uncountable. You learned in real analysis, basic real analysis course for the in the countability, uncountability of for the cardinality of the set, right? You learn this also. The set of all sequence of zeros and one, it's uncountable, right? Note that F is an uncountable. And what is the norm of x minus y whenever x not equal to y? Because this is a subnorm, right? The subnorm is, it is a 1. Whenever x not equal to y, the subnorm is 1. Okay, it's a subnorm. That's why I written norm infinity here. Whenever x not equal to y, these 2 points are note. Okay, suppose L infinity is separable, then you have a countable dense set, right? That is the definition of the a topological space is separable. It admits a countable dense set. Okay, so then you can take a countable dense set. Okay, so by using the dense for each x belongs to x, you can find a positive integer n such that modulus of x minus ak, I mean norm of, it's not a modulus, it's a norm of x minus ak is less than 1 by 2, right? It's less than 1 by 2. Okay, then you can collect all open balls, center x and radius 1 by 2. You can fix the radius 1 by 2, where x is varies from the f, where x is the set of all, where f is the set of all sequence zeros and ones. Okay, see here we need to note that some properties for this family. Note x not equal to y, then b of x comma 1 by 2 intersection b of 1 by 2 is a empty set, right? Because this is the Hausdorff space, so this intersection is the empty. And also note that the distance, the norm of x minus y is equal to 1. Therefore, y does not belongs to b of x comma 1 by 2. In the same way, x does not belongs to b of y comma 1 by 2, right? And also note that the script f is also uncountable, because f is an uncountable set, right? for each x, you associated b of x comma 1 by 2, right? Because x is uncountable, and this property, whenever x not equal to y, b of x comma 1 by 2 intersection b of 1 by 2 is also empty. From that, you can easily see that f is also uncountable, right? Therefore, again by dense of a, you can written as a as x belongs to f, a intersection b of x comma 1 by 2, right? So what we have written here, a is a union of a disjoint collection of uncountable sets, right? So because this is uncountable, this collection a intersection b, because script f is uncountable, therefore this collection is uncountable. I mean, this union is uncountable. What I'm saying, this union is this collection is uncountable, and also it's a disjoint, right? And also by this this property has, therefore ak is yeah, ak is here, right, in this set. Therefore a is an uncountable set, but this is a contradiction. We have assumed a is a countable set, right? Okay, therefore our proofs is over. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Is there any doubt? L infinity is separable. It is very easy argument, right? You can catch. But because I'm using the denseness only, and using the set of a sequence of zeros and one is uncountable. Nothing. And this is the very important crucial point is here. You have to note this. Yes. Yeah. Fine. If you have doubt, you can ask. Okay. The next one is show that C of close to 0, 1 is not a Banach space equipped with the L1 norm, right? It's an L1 norm. It's not a Banach space. Why it is not a Banach space? So for that, you going to define a Cauchy sequence in F, but the Cauchy sequence converges it outside of C of close to 0, 1, right? It is enough to show. Okay. For that, we define a sequence. For each n belong to n, define f1 of x. Yeah, define f1 of x. This is a set of all nx. Sorry, f1 of x if is nx if 0 less than equal to x less than equal to 1 by n. If it is 1 by n less than equal to x. Therefore, what is look like your f1? Your f1 is it's like this one. You can start from here to 1 by n. This reaches here. It's 1. Okay, and after that your function is like that. It's completely constant, right? If you allow n is very large, so this line is going to coincide with your y-axis, right? If you allow n is large, this line fm, this line is coincide with your y-axis, right? You have to note that also. You can maybe geometrically you can argue also, but here it's a direct proof. Okay, so observe that we can define for each t. You have to show, observe that f1 is a Cauchy sequence in C of close to 0, 1. It is a simple exercise. You have to easily verify, right? F1 is a Cauchy sequence. F1 is a Cauchy sequence. And also observe that for each t, the sequence f1 of t is converges, right? Where it converges, if t not equal to 0, it converges to 1. Why t not equal to 0, it converges to 1? Because if t not equal to 0, then mean your t is here, right? But 1 by n converges to 0, therefore you can find a large positive integer such that 1 by n is here, and you can take f1 of t at that this function is a constant for all m greater than or equal to n, right? M form of t. So this is basically whenever t not equal to 0, this sequence f1 of t is eventually a constant sequence. That constant is 1. Therefore, f1 of t converges to 1. Okay. Note that f is not continuous at equal to t, continuous at t equal to 0. Why? Because if you take any sequence which converges to 0, then f is the constant. It is a 1. But the limit does not, f1 of t, sorry, f of xn does not converge to f of 0. Therefore, this is not a continuous function. Clearly, this function is not continuous, right? F is not continuous. But f1 is a Cauchy sequence. All you have to show that f1 converges to f, right? So, what is the norm of f1 minus f? So, you have to show that f1 tends to f. For that, you just do the simple computation. What you will get? You will get this inequality. we mean a product space which is complete metric space where the metric comes from the norm induced by the inner product, right? As I said earlier, if you have inner products, you have a norm linear space. So if you have norm linear space, you can make it as a metric space. Okay. So complete, you know, every Cauchy sequence converges. Okay. A norm linear space is an inner product space. So this is the fact. Read. A norm linear space is an inner product space if and only if the norm satisfies the parallelogram law. See, any norm satisfies the parallelogram law, then you can make it as a norm linear space as a inner product space, right? This is a very important one. So that's what we have verified. If any norm linear space, the norm does not satisfy the parallelogram, then it is not an inner product space. This is the fact. It is a useful fact. You can just to keep in mind. Okay. And we need to show that let 1 less than or equal to p less than infinity, LP is a Hilbert space, p equal to 2, right? You know, p equal to 2, then L2 is a Hilbert space. That is clear. So how will you define the inner product? For this, the inner product, if you take x comma y belongs to L2, define inner product x comma y, it is nothing but summation 1 equal to 1 to infinity xn yn bar, right? So this gives an inner product, and with respect to the inner product, the space is complete. That is clear because we already saw LP is a Banach space whenever p greater than or equal to 1. So if you put p equal to 2, then it is a Banach. Banach means complete, right? So it is a Hilbert space. Okay. Suppose LP is a Hilbert space. Then the previous result says that norm satisfies the parallelogram law, right? The norm satisfies the parallelogram law. Then you take the sequence En and Em, right? Then the norm satisfies the parallelogram law, right? So I'm writing the parallelogram law. So what is the norm of this quantity? I mean norm square of this quantity, En minus Em square. This is nothing but 2 power 2 by p by 2 plus 2 power 2 by p by 2. Right? In the right hand side, what is the norm of En and Em? This is 1, this is 1. Right? I mean, this is 1 and this is also 1. So here it's a 2 times into 2, 4. Right? So I have the further simplification, 2 times into 2 power 2 by p by 2 by p. This is nothing but, here is 2 square, right? Yeah, you can cancel it 1, 2. Then you will get 2 power 2 by p is equal to 2, right? This has the unique solution only if p equal to 2, right? If p not equal to 2, I mean p not equal to 2, then this is, yeah, p not equal to 2, then 2 by p is not a rational, it is not a rational number, it is an irrational number, right? Of course, p equal to 2, this is a rational number, that is the 4 not equal to 2, right? When p greater than 1 and not equal to 2, yes, it is an irrational number. This number is an irrational number. Therefore, this equation is not valid. This equation is valid only if p equal to 2. Therefore, LP is a Hilbert space if and only p equal to 2. Right? The proofs are simple. Yeah. Next, it's a bounded operator. It is a structure preserving map. Here we want to study, and boundedness we also study. I think. Dr. Chandrasekhar introduced the bounded operator. Maybe I will introduce here. You take two norm linear space, a linear map T from x to y is called bounded. There exists a positive m greater than 0 such that norm of T of x is less than or equal to m times norm of x for all x and y. Right? So this is called a bounded condition. So this is called a bounded condition. Okay. So the notation, denote the set of all bounded operators between x and y. It's a b of x comma y. Right? This is a standard notation. Okay. This is a fact. Functional you may be learned. Let T from x to y be a linear map. Then the following are equivalent. T is bounded if and only if T is continuous. If T is continuous, continuous means you need to verify all point, but the linearity is it's a very crucial here. If T is a linear map, then if you need to verify for the continuity at a point 0. If you verify T is continuous at 0, then T is continuous automatically every point, right? And bounded is equivalent to continuous, because this condition forces to it's maybe in the real analysis you can maybe see this is a Lipschitz condition, right? The real analysis, yeah. Here is, yeah, it seems somehow it's Lipschitz condition, this condition. Okay. Okay. If you have a bounded operator, you can define a norm. The norm is defined by the supremum of T of x is less than or equal to set of all x belongs to x such that norm x less than or equal to 1. Okay. Norm of T of x, right? Norm of T. Okay. You have to verify this is actually a norm. This norm is called the operator norm. Okay. So, yeah. So there is a remark, let T be a bounded operator, then norm of T of x is less than or equal to norm of T times norm of x. This norm of T is here, the supremum of this quantity. Okay. Okay. There is another fact. Let P of x comma y be a norm linear space with respect to the operator norm. You know, right? We define this is a norm, this is an operator norm. Then the following are equivalent. B of x comma y is a Banach space. If and only if y is a Banach space. Right? These things are you learn. I just recall because I am going to use this to solve some problems. Okay. Okay. You can take h equal to L2, define a map from L2 by the following equation. T of x comma 1 send it to x2, x3, xn. It is, you have to shift it. This is a left shift. Okay. So you need to forget the first quantity. You have to write x2, x3, xn. So prove that D is a bounded operator and T is an isometry. Because of isometry means this is norm of T x is less than is equal to norm x and norm of T equal to 1. This is clear, no? Why this is clear? Yeah, I will. The proof is very simple. See, what is norm of T of x? If x belongs to x, right? What is the norm of T of x? This is nothing but, what is the formula for that? This is a set of all n such that n equal to 2 to infinity, right? Oh, sorry. Xn square, I mean take a square. Okay, what is the number? This is, so this value is equal to this value. This value equal to this value. Do you have any argument for this? This value is equal to this value. This is a norm x. Norm x square. Why this is equal to this? Anybody who have argument? Okay, this is these things. You take a partial sum. The partial sum converges to this this sum, right? I am taking, suppose yes. You take the partial sum. You take a partial sum for this sequence and this sequence. I am taking this sequence is Sn, this sequence is Sn dash. Okay. See, what about that? There is no shuttle, but you can, yeah. Okay, this quantity to this quantity. This, yeah, it is easy, no? So you can easily see that. From that, you can easily see that norm of T is less, it is less than or equal, it is equal to 1, right? If you're taking a supremum, if you take the norm T, if you find the norm T, I mean take a supremum set of all x, sorry, set of all T of x, norm of x, such that x belongs to L2 and norm x less than or equal to 1. Okay. So you know, right, what is the norm of this? This equality is same. Therefore, this gives a 1. So therefore, it's 1. So basically, this implies T is a bounded operator, T is an isometry, and the norm T equal to 1. Okay, this operator is very important. Yeah, when you learned, I mean, the C-star algebra theory or in the operator theory, the right shift and the left shift, it's are the, it is a good operator. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is the one nice exercise. You can try this. Let Dn be a sequence of complex numbers. Define L2 to L by the following relation. You can define by the, you can multiply it by the entry wise, the sequence, right? T1, x1, D2, x2. See, T is a bounded operator if and only if, I mean, this is the equivalent. These are the equivalent. And the following are equal. Sorry. These are the equivalent. T is a bounded operator, implies the sequence is bounded and the norm T is exactly coincide with this. Okay, so this is clear because this is very clear. If you have to verify this, it is a simple exercise. You have to do exercise. to check the above equals. Okay, the next one is, yeah, we need to define the dual of a non-linear space. Okay, so and we will give some, I will give some application of Hahn-Banach theorem. Okay, let X be a non-linear space. What is X star? Is a set of all map from X to C such that F is linear, because C is a vector space and X is also a vector space, so you can make it as it's a linear, and this is also a bounded, right? This is a bounded linear functional. Okay, this is called a linear functional. You can collect all the bounded linear functional from X to C. Okay, the space X is, X star is called the dual of X, right? Note that the dual of X is always a Banach space, because the set of all bounded operators from X to Y is a Banach space if and only if the range space, I mean the range of means Y is a Banach space, right? Here C is always a Banach space, therefore dual of X is always a Banach space. Okay, so yeah, Hahn-Banach theorem has many different versions. I will mention here two versions. Okay, let X be a non-linear space, let Y be a linear subspace of X. Assume that F from Y to X is a bounded linear function on Y, because Y is sitting inside X, therefore Y is also considered a non-linear space. So you can talk about continuous. Okay, then there exists a bounded linear functional F tilde from X to X C such that when you restrict it to Y, you will this is equal to Y. Sorry, it is equal to F, and the norm is also preserving, right? You can extend the norm preserving bounded linear function. Okay, but this extensions may not be unique. You can there are many extensions, right? Yeah, this extension is not unique. Okay, so this, so there is another version for the Hahn-Banach theorem. Let X be a non-linear space and X naught belongs to X. Let Y be a linear subspace of X such that you can take epsilon equal to set of all infimum, right? It is a greater than 0. Then you can find a bounded linear functional F from X to X is such that the norm F is 1 by epsilon, and if you restrict it to F is a 0, and F of X naught is equal to 1. You can choose such a bounded linear function. Okay, this is very easy. You can easily choose. Okay. Yeah. Why the dual of non-linear space is non-empty? Anybody know the reasons? Why dual of X is non-empty? I mean X star is non-empty for any non-linear space. Any non-linear space. Because of the Hahn-Banach theorem. By Hahn-Banach theorem. Because of Hahn-Banach. Because you take a vector X belongs to X and consider the one-dimensional vector space and define a linear map. Okay. So this function is bounded because if you define any linear function on a finite dimensional non-linear space, then it is automatically continuous, because as I mentioned in the previous class. So therefore this is continuous. By the Hahn-Banach theorem, you can extend to this the whole X, right? You can extend this bounded linear function to the whole X. Therefore dual of X is always non-empty. Okay, by the Hahn-Banach theorem. Okay, the dual of L1 is L infinity, right? We can quickly see why this is. Let AK be the standard basis for L1. Note that any element in L1 has a unique representation. That representation I am written here. It's a, yeah, I am written here. Yes, you can tell. Define a map from L1 star to L infinity by the following relation. So how will you define? And defining a new sequence, you take pi of f and send it to this sequence k equal to 1 to infinity, right? So why this element belongs to L infinity, right? Then only this map is well defined, right? So for that we need to verify first f of ek is L infinity, right? Observe that f of x equal to, oh here I forgot to write down. f, right? K equal to 1 to infinity xk ek. And if this is a continuous, you can boost the f inside the summation k equal to 1 to infinity xk, because it's a linear, you can take it out, the scalar is outside f of ek, right? Since f is bounded, you can see modulus of f of ek is less than or equal to norm f times into ek, right? When what is the norm of ek with respect to the L1? This is a 1, right? Therefore, this is, see, for each k, modulus of f of ek is less than or equal to norm f. Therefore, the supremum is less than or equal to norm f. Okay, this is nothing but pi of f infinity, right? Pi of infinity, this is a sequence. Therefore, this is less than or equal to f. Therefore, this is a bounded sequence. Therefore, it is a well defined, right? So, prove that pi is an isometry. It is very easy. If you take any element in the dual of L1, pi f is less than or equal to norm infinity. Okay. So you need to prove the reverse inequality. For that, for x belongs to L1, f of x equal to, this is the way, right? xk, f of ek, this is one. Then you can boost the modulus inside the summation. Then this is less than or equal to this one, right? Okay. What is this? You can replace this is by the supremum quantity. Okay, then k is less than or equal to 1. So then what is this? This summation is norm 1, right? Therefore, this is less than or equal to pi f times infinity. Therefore, norm f equal to pi f. Okay. So it is simple exercise. You have to show pi is 1 1 and on to linear. This is clear, right? It is easily seen. You can suppose f plus g. You can f plus g ek. It is clear. Pi is, you can, it is a simple exercise you have to show. Pi is 1 1 and on to n. Okay. Therefore, dual of L1 is isometrically isomorphic to L infinity. Okay. So here I want to mention some remark here. So you know, right, H is a Hilbert space. Let B, yeah, this is a famous theorem, Skatton theorem. This is very useful when you have to study fundamental algebra, right? Fundamental algebra, C-star algebra theory. This is very useful. So I am here mentioning the fact. I'm not going to prove anything. It's a big theorem. Let B of which is not the set of all bounded linear operators on Hilbert space. When H is a finite dimensional Hilbert space, you can identify B of H with M1 of C. That you know, right? Okay. I am defining new definition. You take any orthonormal basis for H and T belongs to B of H. We say that T is a trace class operator. See, in the finite dimensional Hilbert space, I mean it's C power n, every matrix is a, you can define a trace, right? But when you go into infinite dimensional case, you cannot define a trace which is a finite quantity. I mean, which is a finite number. You cannot define a trace, right? So you need to collect all those operators which you have defined a trace. So that is the class. This class. Let T belongs to P of H. We say that T is a trace class operator. Then this is k equal to 1 to infinity. This modulus T summation k equal to this is less than infinity, where mod T is the square root of this positive operator, right? So any positive matrices has a square root, right? Therefore, any positive operator has a square root also. It is you don't need to worry about. If you need, you don't worry about, because I need to mention here. Remark: it's a continued. Let L1 denote the set of all trace class operator. Okay, for T belongs to L1 of H, you can put, you can define a norm on L1 of H, right? This is the norm. It's a trace norm. This norm is called the trace norm. This is a theorem. This is the theorem is Skatton theorem. You can see in many theorem books. This is a Skatton theorem. What is the dual of L1 of H star is equal to B of H, right? It's a stable bounded operator. See, what is the bounded operator? You can think of as L infinity. This is L1. You can think of as L1, right? So, yeah, you have to think of it. So this is a very nice theorem. So this is very useful when you study fundamental algebra theory. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I will mention the following problem without proof. For this, the dual of LP is LQ, where P and Q are satisfied this relation. 1 by P, 1 by Q is less than 1. This relation is also holds for capital LP and capital LQ. Okay. The dual of C0 is a L1. Okay. This relation is also hold for, I mean, the C0 is, when you think of us in the continuous sense, this is a set of all continuous function which vanishes at infinity, right? So it is a capital L1. Here you can think of it in the continuous sense. Okay. I didn't going to prove this because we don't have time. So I need to. Yeah. This is also very easy. It is a simple exercise. See, by using the Harmonic theorem, you can easily define. First, you have to define any map f tilde from the linear span of x1. I am just sketching the proof of this. To send it to C, you can send it to C. How will you define f tilde of x1 is alpha 1, because prove that for any alpha 1. I mean, if you take xi, it's alpha I when I less than or equal to 1 to n. So this is very useful. Then, as I said earlier, if you have any linear functional, this is a linear. F tilde is a linear, and it is defined on your finite dimensional vector space, linear functional, and it defined on your finite dimensional vector space. This is a finite dimensional, right? Because x1 defined on your finite dimensional vector space. Then f tilde is continuous. Because this is application of non-mono. You can this is a bounded linear functional which satisfies our requirement. Functional which satisfies our requirement. Which satisfies requirement. Okay, this is fine. Okay, see, I will send the PDF file. If you have doubt, you can ask me anytime. Okay, because I need to cover the time. See, some fundamental theorems in functional analysis. So I will recall some few definitions from the metric space theory and topological space theory also. Okay, let x comma d be a metric space. We say that x is of first category, then x is written as a countable union of no-over dense set. So what do you mean by no-over dense? This is the definition, no-over dense. You take the interior of the closure of E is empty. Okay, a set is called no-over dense if interior of closure of E is empty. Okay, we say that x is of second category, then x is not of first category. Okay, it's not a first category. Okay, then yeah, so there is the pair category theorem. This is two different forms. So let x be a complete metric space, then x is a second category. Okay, then that means x cannot be written as a countable union of no-over dense set. Okay, x cannot be written as a countable union. So there is a form 2. Suppose let x be a complete metric space, let un be a sequence of open dense sets in x, then the intersection n equal to 1 to infinity, un is a dense in x. Okay, un is a dense in x. Okay, prove that the above two forms are equal. You have to check yourself. This is very easy exercise. You have to verify. Otherwise, you can find some maybe in the topological books of Bunkers. Bunkers is also there. These two forms are equal. Okay. So the next one is uniform boundedness principle. This is very useful. Let x be a Banach space and y be a non-linear space. Right? Let you have the family of bounded operators from x into y. And this condition, this is very important condition. This condition is very important. Suppose that for each x belongs to x, consider the family norm of t of, consider the set norm of tx, set of the t is varies from script f. Is a bounded set in R, then see, this is a very big thing. T belongs to, then this supremum is a finite quantity. See, this is a very important. The supremum is a finite quantity. Why the supremum is finite quantity? Because of this uniform boundedness principle, there is a theorem is Banach-Steingart theorem. You can easily find that. Let x be a Banach space and y be a non-linear space. Let Tn be a sequence of bounded operators such that for each x belongs to x, the Tn of x converges. Right? The Tn of x converges. The Tn of x converges means this norm Tx is norm of Tn of x is bounded set in R. Right? Converges implies bounded in the metric space. Right? So define T of x. Define T of x like that. Limit n tends to infinity Tn of x, because we have the assumption Tn of x is converges. then by the uniform boundedness principle, one can easily see that T is a bounded operator from X into Y, right? So you can define a new bounded operator by using the uniform boundedness principle theorem. Okay, because of this condition satisfied, you can easily see that T is a bounded operator. Okay. The second one is the open mapping theorem. Suppose you have a two Banach space, let X and Y be two Banach space. T belongs to T be a bounded operator. If T is onto, then T is an open map. So that means you have a Banach space X, and here is a open set, and T is an onto map, right? Sorry, this is your X. This is your X. So this is your Y. So T is an onto. So this is an U is an open set. Then T of U. T of U is also some set here. So this is also open. So if it is open, then the image of the open set is open. So this is the open set. Okay. So this is the open mapping theorem. And there is another important theorem, closed graph theorem. So the closed graph theorem is very important when you prove something is bounded. When you prove some linear map is bounded. Okay. Suppose you have a two Banach space. Let T from X to Y be a linear map, then the following are equivalent. Okay. T is bounded means this is the graph. This is the graph of T. This is called graph of T, graph of a function. You know, right? Graph of a function. This graph of T, set of all X belongs to X, Tx such that X belongs to X, is a closed set in the Cartesian product of two spaces, X and X comma Y. Okay. So this is very important. Now we can see some applications of closed graph theorem, uniform boundedness principle theorem. Okay. Okay. Let Y be any proper closed subspace of a nonlinear space, then Y is nowhere dense in X. Right? Proper means, so what is mean proper? So proper means it is not equal to X, right? It is not equal to X. Okay. Y is nowhere dense in X. You need to prove. How will you prove? Y is nowhere dense. So for that, you need to prove interior of Y bar climb. Interior of Y bar is empty, right? Suppose non-empty. Suppose int of Y bar is non-empty. I mean, note that Y bar equal to Y because Y is closed. Y is closed. Note that, right? Okay. So interior is non-empty means you can find an open ball. Around zero some radius, right, which is completely contained in your Y. You can find. So interior, since the interior is, then you can find an open ball B of 0, for some r. It's completely contained in your Y, right? Okay. What about this one? See, this is a vector space, right? Y is a vector space. Then n B of 0, r, it is also inside ny. I mean, ny is again it's y. I don't need to confuse. It's a y, right? So what is this? This is a n. This is not a. This is a n. Okay, it's a positive integer. For n greater than or equal to 1, you have this thing. See, this is completely for all n greater than or equal to 1. So what is this n? So you can written again b of 0, n naught, right? It's sitting inside y. Okay. Then what is this? You can take union n equal to 1 to infinity b of. See, you can push n inside the b of 0. It's a n naught, right? You can push. We already saw this one. So this is a n naught. Okay. So what is this? When n is very large, this is coincide with your x, right? This union is coincide with your x, but this union is where it is completely contained in y. This implies y equal to s. Okay. So, but this is a contradiction because our y is a proper. See, y not equal to x, right? This is we know. This is a contradiction. Therefore, y is nowhere dense. Okay. So, using this one, you can immediately say that C naught is nowhere dense in C. I mean, C means set of all convergence sequence. here is the C means set of all convergent sequence. Sorry, C means set of all convergent sequence. Okay, C means set of all convergent sequence. Note that C naught is nowhere dense in C because C naught is a Banach space, you know, right? So it is a closed in the set of all convergent sequence, and it is not equal to C also. C naught is not equal to C. Therefore, by the previous problem, so you can easily see that C is not dense in C. Okay, and also you can easily see that C is nowhere dense in L infinity also, because the set of all convergent sequence is also a Banach space. So therefore it is closed in L infinity. Therefore it's closed in L infinity, and it is also proper, right? So there is a consider, maybe you can consider this sequence 1 minus n. This is a bounded sequence, but it is not a convergent, right? It is not a convergent. Therefore, it is a proper closed subspace in L, closed subspace of L infinity. Again, the previous problem. So the set of all convergent sequence is nowhere dense in L infinity. Okay, okay, okay. This is a very another one important problem. So this is very important because this is a counter example. This is a very important example because in the closed graph theorem we have the assumption both spaces are Banach space, right? If you drop Banach, if you drag complete condition, then the closed graph theorem, it is not true. For that, this is an example. You can easily see that. See, what is the example? Let C be the space of continuously differentiable function. What does that mean? So f is differentiable function. The derivative is continuous. Okay, that is the space of continuously differentiable function. This is a space of continuous function defined from C of closed 0, 1 to infinity. Right? T of f equal to, this is the derivative. This is the derivative. This is the derivative of it. Okay. Prove that graph is closed, but T is not bounded. We saw, right? Graph is closed if and only if T is bounded. But there is an assumption in the nonlinear space. Both the nonlinear spaces are Banach space. But the space of a continuously differential function is not a Banach space with respect to the subnorm. Okay. Here we consider both things are the subnorm. Okay. The space of a continuous differential function, it's a nonlinear space. Here we consider norms. Norm is a subnorm. Okay. Here we consider is a subnorm. Okay. So C of closed, the set of a continuously differential function is not a Banach space with respect to the subnorm. You can check maybe. So I will prove the graph is closed. So what we need to prove graph is closed? For that you have to take, let xn be a sequence which converges to x, and t of xn converges to some y, right? You have to show that claim for need to prove graph is closed, it is enough to show that t of x equal to y, right? So it is very easy by using the fundamental theorem of analysis. Yeah, how will you prove? So you can define a new function, integral 0 to t y of t, sorry, not y of t, it is a y of x ds, right? But what is y? Y is the limit of t of xn, right? So therefore limit n tends to infinity, this is a t of xn. Okay, t of xn, I mean dx, not dx, it's dx. It's a dx. Okay, it's a dx. So what is t? T is the acting on xn is the derivative, right? Not t. T is acting on xn is derivative, right? So you can replace by this derivative. So that is xn x of x dx, right? Okay. Then what is this? This value you can easily compute. This is by the fundamental theorem of analysis. You can easily compute xn of t minus xn of 0. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I can forget. You can take the limit is outside. Because of the uniform continuous, you can take the limit is outside. There is no issue at all. Okay. Now you can apply the limit. What you will get? So you will get, this is a, so where it converges. It is converges to x of t minus x of 0, right? Because uniform convergence implies pointwise convergence. So this is converges to this because of uniform convergence. Because of uniform convergence. Okay. So then see, then you can written as x of t is integral. Sorry, how will you written? X of t is yeah, x of 0 plus integral 0 to t y of s ds, right? So what is the derivative of x? What is the derivative of x? The derivative of x is nothing but your y, right? Because of the fundamental theorem of analysis. You have learned this in the real analysis. Fundamental theorem in real analysis. You know, right? These things. Yes. The derivative is x. Therefore, t of this is nothing but t of x, right? Because what is the x dash? This is the t is acting on. That is the derivative map. This is y. Therefore, what we have proved, graph is closed. Graph is closed. Okay. Second, we need to prove t is not bounded. T is not bounded. T is not bounded. T is not bounded is very clear. You have to take a xn of t is nothing but t power n. Okay, xn of t is nothing but t power n. For all t belongs to closed 0. What is the derivative? It's a xn of dash t is nothing but n times t power n minus 1, right? Okay. What is the norm of t of xn? This is nothing but n, right? So, but what is the norm of xn t? And also note that norm of xn is 1, right? Okay. So what is the supremum of set of all x such that, sorry, t of x?
It should be one norm, sir.
For which one?
The norm of action. The norm of action is it's infinite norm.
Yeah, yes, it's infinite. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, CF, it's a CF closed amount, not CF. Yeah, CF C dash of closed amount. Okay. So because we proved, right, for we have found a sequence here in here. So this is a infinite. So therefore t is not bounded. Okay, t is not bounded. Yeah. A final one problem which we finish this section today. So this problem, it is this problem is asked in my interview when I went to TFR. So this problem is asked in my interview by using the closed graph theorem, right? I have answered this problem at that time. So the proof is very simple. Yeah, let T be a Hilbert space. Let T, yeah, I just want to make a remark here. See, the closed graph theorem is fails here, right? What is the closed graph theorem? What is the assumption? Let x and y be Banach space. Let T be a linear map, right? The T is bounded is characterized by the graph is closed, right? But what we have shown this problem, yes, this problem, what we have shown this problem, we have shown that graph is closed. Then by the closed graph theorem, you can immediately see that T is bounded, but T is not bounded, we have proved. So where is the mistake is happening here? Here the assumption is that in the closed graph theorem, both the space are Banach, but here the space of continuously differential function is not a Banach space with respect to the Subna. Okay, so everything is here done by the Subna. Therefore, the closed graph theorem, you cannot drop the assumption, right? For the completeness assumption, you cannot drop the completeness assumption. Okay, that is a very good point. Okay, so the second one is you have a linear map such that this condition is whole. Then prove that T is bounded. Okay, so for that I am using the by the closed graph theorem. So I am going to use the closed graph theorem. So what you have to prove the graph is closed, right? The Klein, you have to prove Klein graph is closed because Hilbert space is complete, right? Therefore, you need to prove graph is closed in H product. Okay, how will you prove? So for that, you need to take a sequence, right? Let xn converges to x in H and t of xn converges to y. So you need to climb because graph is closed means this element is in the graph. So this tx is y. Okay, it is easy. It's very easy. For that, you need to fix a vector psi belongs to H. Okay, so you need to fix a vector. So what is tx y? Sorry, tx psi. Okay, inner product of tx psi. So by the definition of t, you can t is push this side, right? I mean, you can use this condition here, like this condition. Okay, from that you will return x is t side. Okay, then what is x? X is the limit, right? You can return as limit n tends to infinity xn t side. Okay, okay. Then what you will do? So you can take limit is outside. Why limit you can take outside? Because of the inner product is continuous. You can take limit is outside. Therefore, this is xn t side. Again, using this symmetric condition. Again, using this symmetric condition. What you will get? You will get limit n tends to infinity t xn psi, right? Then yes, then what is that? T of xn is converges. No, you can take limit inside. You take limit inside limit n tends to infinity t of xn. This is less than psi. Sorry, this inner part of this is psi. Okay, so what is that? This is nothing but y psi, right? So hence what we have proved. So tx psi y times psi, right? These two values are equal. From that, you can easily written as this t of x minus y psi equal to 0. See, since psi is arbitrary, right? We take arbitrary element, right? Psi is an arbitrary element. Then this is equal to 0. T of x minus psi equal to 0. You can take psi equal to, yeah, you can take psi equal to t of x minus y. And this implies t of x minus y equal to 0, right? Therefore, t of x equal to y. So hence graph is closed. Okay, hence the graph is closed. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I will finish my session today. So I think, hope I will recall all facts from the function analysis. It might be useful. I will send the PDF file to you. Okay. Okay. You have any doubts?
Yes, sir.
If you have doubt, you can ask.
In the same problem, in the previous problem, where you proved that
Okay.
graph is closed but the t is unbounded in the above.
Yes. Yes.
Here.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Here, right?
Above that, sir. Yeah. Above this.
Uh-huh.
When you are taking, yeah, here you have taken x dash is equals to y, then you automatically take t of x dash is equals to t of x, right?
Yes.
So x dash for that t must be onto, right? Are we doing it? Are we considering t onto?
No. T is not onto. T is not onto here. That's
Then
what I'm saying. So you can find a function which is not a you can find a continuous function which is not a differential, right?
Yeah.
So it cannot be onto. Yeah.
So how do we take that x dash if we have given x dash is equals to y, then that must be t of x.
So we have proved, right? We have what is x? We found x is like this equation, right? X
Yeah.
of 0 plus 0 comma y of x. You know, right? Fundamental theorem of analysis.
Yeah, yes,
So this function is different.
Till here I got it, but when you write x dash is equals to y, that's I got it because from that you get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how did you write like x dash is equals to tx? Because of this.
X dash. Yeah, because of our definition. What is the definition? T of x is the derivative of f, right?
Okay.
So this is our definition. So from that, that's what I written. See, this is our definition. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, here I written the definition. Yeah, here is a power cut. Maybe you can ask immediately because my laptop is going to shut off. Yeah, if you, anybody have doubts?
Okay, thank you, Murugan. Thank you so much for your lectures in this online workshop.
Thank you.
Your approach and the discussion will definitely be very useful to better understand the functional analysis ideas. So we look forward to your continued support. Thank you, Murugan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sir, before going, could you just give me one more answer? In a Banach-Steiner theorem, I have some doubt. Hello.
Hello, Murugan.
Thank you, sir.
I think.
Sir, you please better ask in the WhatsApp group.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you.